Wizard plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed mind.
Welcome to the Anarchist World This Week, broadcast across Australia on the National Community Radio Satellite. Listen to the Anarchist World This Week, Australia's sacred cow slaughterhouse. Listen to analysis of local, national, international events. Listen to analysis you'll never hear anywhere else.
Welcome to the Anarchist World This Week, broadcast across Australia by the Community Radio Network. This program is streaming on 3CR. It's streaming live. That's right, I'm alive. On 3cr.org.au. And what a producer. Kelly Whitworth says to me, stop depressing me. What a producer. She's supposed to say, Joe, this is your 46th year broadcasting on community radio. It's about time you got it right, you know. Not her. Do you know what anarchy is all about? Anarchos without rulers, not without rules. Anarchos without rulers. That's right. And what gives rulers the ability to determine your lives and send your children off to die on the altar of Mammon for the glory of God, King and country? It's very simple. Inequalities in power and wealth. That's right. Inequalities in power and wealth. I'd also like to thank all those people who contributed to the 3CR Radiothon. We've got around $11,000 currently, and we need another 500, but that's up to you. So thank you very much for all that support for Community Radio 3CR. It's extremely appreciated. It's always appreciated, the support that you give to Community Radio 3CR. Always appreciated. Now, what are we going to talk about today? God, I'm in the wrong business, you know, community broadcasting. There's no money in it. You realise that? I mean, I do this for nothing. You know that. I know that. And you listen, well, that's the way it goes. But the thing is, I'm in the wrong business. I mean, over the last 40 to 50 years, the privatisation juggernaut has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when they stopped giving away publicly owned assets, which had been built up by the blood, sweat and tears of generations of Australian workers, like the Commonwealth Bank, which was formed in 1911, the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, many of the state-based essential services providers, and the list goes on. And obviously, then they started privatising the service delivery, you know, privatise the Commonwealth Employment Agency, turn it into a how shall I put it? A money festival for the private sector. Then they privatised aged care. Then they privatised early childhood development. Then they actually privatised the advice which is given to government, because unfortunately public servants were giving governments the wrong advice. That's right. The public servants were giving the government the wrong advice. This is not good. This is not good. So they privatised, and they got the PricewaterhouseCoopers involved, forgetting that, you know, corporate Australia only has one commandment: increasing profits irrespective of the human, social and environmental costs. If it means lying, cheating, you know, gouging, it's all available. It's a roller derby with no rules. That's what capitalism is. But getting back to what I'm talking about, privatisation has been the superhighway to the treasury. And the latest example is early childhood development, or child care, whatever you like to call it these days. You know, the government did all this good work, gave the early childhood development crew a bit of extra money, so that the poor workers who've got to put their kids in care so they can actually pay their mortgages and rents. Guess what? the increased subsidies have been gobbled up, in some cases $40 a day. That's the increase. Gobbled up by the private sector, which now dominates early childhood development. And this is the thing. NDIS, great idea, given over to the private sector, superhighway to the Treasury. Aged care, given over to the private sector, superhighway to the Treasury. And guess whose money's in the Treasury? Yours. Not the corporate sector, because almost over 65% of every dollar which is collected by this government in taxes comes from pay-as-you-earn taxpayers. It doesn't come from the corporate sector. And if you think I'm lying, check out the figures. Check out the figures. And if you're a small taxpayer and you fall behind, I can assure you the tax department will be knocking on your door. As far as legislation is concerned, they're one of the most powerful. They are the most powerful organisation in this country. But they're only powerful for those who do the right thing. Because, you see, we live in a parliamentary democracy. And obviously, what we are seeing in our wonderful parliamentary democracy, what we are seeing is that people are not actually getting what they deserve. It's simple. It's all about influence. Why do we have 1 million children living in poverty in a population of 25 million? I'm sick of talking about it. Why do we have an increase of 17.5% in rents in 1 year in the city of Melbourne and about 15% the rest of Australia? Why are ordinary people being asked to carry the burden of inflation when 70% of inflationary pressures are due to increasing corporate profits? Let's not forget the four big banks made $44 billion profit last financial year. $44 billion profits. And how much tax they pay? Won't be very much at all. Remember the good old days when Google was paying the same tax that somebody earning $120,000 was paying? It's just a wonderful world we live in. And the fundamental issue is the fact that our parliamentary representatives are not frightened of us. And they're not frightened of Australians for a very good reason. They're not frightened of us, and they're quite happy to promise us anything they like to get elected. But once they get elected, we see the dilution of those policies because of the pressure that is placed on our parliamentary representatives, especially the major political parties who rely on their donations to survive. The pressure which is placed regarding what is an acceptable parliamentary agenda. What are acceptable laws? And the trouble in Australia is, and I know people get a bit pissed off with me when I say this, we have a great murmuring class. We're a little bit like the old convicts. We like to murmur under our breaths about how bad things are. But in the end, you can murmur all you like, you can beg and beseech all you like, you can write as many petitions as you like, you can write as many letters to the politicians as you like, which are ignored in 99.9% of cases. I mean, I wrote a beautiful letter to the health minister 7 months ago about this deplorable situation regarding one of my patients. Not even an answer. I sent a copy to the Prime Minister, one of those computer-generated answers. And the thing is, while we continue to be docile, while we continue to accept things, while we continue to shrug our shoulders and say we can't fight City Hall, nothing will change. I know, I've made a mistake. One thing will change. there will be a greater concentration of power in fewer hands and a greater concentration of wealth in fewer hands. And that has been the history of Australia in the last 40 years. So think about it. The joys of privatisation. I mean, we see initially when people talk about privatisation of services, and what I'm talking about is not the privatisation of institutions, but services like aged care, early childhood care, national disability insurance, and the list goes on and on. When you see that privatisation, what you see is initially there's a number of businesses which get involved, but within a short period of time, within a very short period of time, you see 3 or 4 major corporations dominating that sphere of human economic activity in the country. And in a country where there are no human rights in the Constitution, apart from the right to have freedom of religion and the right to fair compensation if your property is compulsorily acquired by the government, in a country where corporations dominate and I'm not talking about hundreds of corporations, but a handful of corporations dominate every aspect of our existence, you begin to understand the power that they wield in comparison to the parliamentarians which we continue to elect to Parliament. Now, I'm not saying the parliamentarians are bad people. I'm sure most of them are wonderful people. And I'm sure most of them go into the game thinking that they're going to change things. But the thing is, you're not going to change things by following a legislative program which suits the 1% that own the means of production, distribution, exchange and communication. Let's move on. This is the Anarchist World This Week, broadcast across Australia via the Community Radio Network. This program is streaming live on 3cr.org.au. The program is podcast. You can access the podcast by going to 3cr.org.au. The Voice. Now, I had a very unfortunate experience 2 days ago. I was at a patient's house. Yes, I still do see people, and I still do home visits. And he had 3AW on. Now, I'm a very polite person. I know you find that hard to believe. And I didn't ask him to turn it down. And the shit, the garbage, the half-truths, the disinformation, the misinformation regarding the Voice referendum reminded me of the hysteria after the Mabo judgment on the 3rd of June 1992. Same rhetoric, same racist rants, and this is on a major corporate-owned radio station. And I'm talking about the sewer that is which is social media. I'm talking about the sewerage which was emanating from the mouths of these so-called intelligent presenters. And the big question is, they all, irrespective of what you think about the Voice, whether you think it's window dressing, whether you think you need a treaty first, irrespective of what you think, the fact is that the racist elements in our society are coming out to party, and they're partying big time, standing on the backs of people for various reasons, ideological, philosophical reasons, oppose the Voice. But the main thing we are told, whether it's young Pauline Hanson, or whether it's somebody else outside of federal parliament, whether it's some shock jock who needs his mouth washed out with soap and water, the fact is they keep telling us it's about race. This is a referendum about race. It's going to divide people on racial backgrounds. That it's going to give one race in the country an advantage. That it's going to destroy the so-called pseudo-equality we have. Now, this referendum regarding the Voice, which is an advisory group which advises the government, is not about race. It's about property rights. Yeah, you're thinking, Joe, you've lost party and their time in big standing on the backs of people reason through various ideological, philosophical opposed reasons. The Voice. But the main told thing we had Pauline, whether it's young Hanson, whether it's somebody else, it's somebody side of federal, whether it's Parliament, some shock his mouth who needs his open water washed out with some. The fact is, keep telling us is like race. It's about a referendum. This is a referendum about it's going to divide people on race backgrounds. It's going to that one give in the race and a country advantage that it's going to destroy pseudo the so-called equality we have. Referendum. Now this Voice regarding the Voice which is an advisory group advises the government not is race about property. It's about right. Yeah, Joe, you've lost. You're thinking, and they're partying big time, standing on the backs of people through various reasons, ideological, philosophical reasons, oppose the Voice. But the main thing we are told, whether it's young Pauline Hanson, whether it's somebody else outside of federal Parliament, whether it's some shock jock who needs his mouth washed out with soap and water, the fact is they keep telling us it's about race. This is a referendum about race. It's going to divide people on racial backgrounds. That it's going to give one race in the country an advantage. That it's going to destroy the so-called pseudo-equality we have. Now this referendum regarding the Voice, which is an advisory group which advises the government, is not about race. It's about property rights. Yeah, you're thinking, Joe, you've lost party and their time in big standing on the backs of people reason through various ideological, philosophical opposed reasons. The Voice. But the main told thing we had Pauline, whether it's young Hanson, whether it's somebody else, it's somebody side of federal, and whether it's Parliament, some shock his mouth who needs his open water washed out with soap. The fact is, keep telling us is like race. It's about a referendum. This is a referendum about it's going to divide people on race backgrounds. It's going to that one give in the race and a country advantage that it's going to destroy pseudo the so-called equality we have. Referendum. Now this Voice regarding the Voice, which is an advisory group advises the government not is race about property. It's about right. Yeah, Joe, you've lost. You're thinking, and they're partying big time, standing on the backs of people for various reasons, ideological, philosophical reasons, oppose the voice. But the main thing we are told, whether it's young Pauline Hanson, or whether it's somebody else, and whether the side of federal, whether it's our job or parliament, some shop mouth, open water, who needs his. The fact is, washed out with some, keep telling us race. It's about a reference about race. This is it's going to end them about racial divide people on race. It's going to background one that's in the country give an race country disadvantage that it's going to destroy the so-called equality referendum we have. Now this voice advised regarding the vote, which is an advisory group, not advises the government. Race is about property rights. It's about right. You've lost, and there you're thinking, big party time backs standing on the of people for various ideological reasons, philosophical reasons, the voice oppose. But the main thing we are, whether it's young told, Pauline Hanson, it's somebody, whether the everybody else, whether it's side of federal jobs out federal parliament mouth, some shop open water. The fact is, who needs he's keep telling us washed out with some race. Is like a reference. It's about race. It's going to. This is a referendum about divide people. It's going to on race one backgrounds in the country that and it give race this country advantage or suitor that it's going to destroy the so-called referendum equality we have voice. Now this advisendum, which advised regarding the woman, which is a not advisory group, race as the government is proper about it's about you've lost right, and they're big. You're thinking party backs time of people standing on the for various ideological, philosophical reasons, logical, the voice, oppose. Main thing weird, but the whether it's young told, Pauline, it's somebody Hanson, and whether whether anybody else jock side of federal out mouth federal parliament open water some shock. The fact is, keep telling us who needs his race washed out with some a reference. They cut race. It's about it's going to. This is a referendum about. It's going to divide people one on race in the background and that give this race country or suit advantage that it's going to destroy referendum the so-called equality voice we have. Advise now this which advisendum regarding the not which is a racery group as the government proper is nuts about yes you've lost it's about and they're right big so you're thinking backs the party of people time for various standing on the ideological of philosophical reasons the voice reason oppose thing weird whether it's young but the main told it's somebody Pauline and whether the Hanson whether it's whether jobby else inside of federal mouth out open water or parliament. The fact is some shock keep telling us race who needs his washed out with say referendum about race like it's going to it's about this is a referendum about it's going to divide people in the on race and a background that just give race or pseudo-country advantage, that it's going to destroy the so-called voice, equality advise we have, which advise. Now this not regarding the race, which is an advisory group propertizes the governments, is about, you've lost, and then it's about in big T right facts. You're thinking of people partying through various times, ideological, standing on the philosophical reasons, the voice reason, logical, main thing we oppose with its young, but the it's somewhat told, and whether the Pauline, whether it's Hanson, Jock, or whether it's anybody else, mouth, side of federal open water. The fact is, Parliament keep telling us some shock race. Who needs his a referendum washed out with such race? It's going to do it's about racial. This is it's going to referendum about one race in the country, divide people and on race background. This that give pseudo race country advantage referendum, that it's going to destroy voice, the so-called advise equality which advise we have. Now this not race regarding the voice, which is a proprietary group advises the government. Is you've lost about, and there's big. It's about city facts of people. You're thinking through various parties, ideological time, philosophical, standing on the reasons of the voice. This reason, main logical thing we read with its young opposed, but the it's somewhat, and whether the told, whether it's Pauline, Jock, Hanson, or whether it's mouth, anybody else, open water, side of federal. The fact is, I keep telling us, Parliament, race, some shock, a referendum needs his race washed out with so it's going to do is it's about it's going to this is one referendum about in the country and it divide people on racial this background that pseudo give race country referendum advantage, that it's going to voice destroy advise the so-called which advise equality we have not. Now this race regarding the proper, which is an advisory group advises the government. You've lost is, and they're about in big. It's about facts of people through various. You're thinking ideological party, philosophical time reasons, standing on the voice of main reason thing we logical with its young read oppose. It's somewhat, but the and whether it's told, Jock, Pauline, Hanson, mouth, or whether open water, anybody else. The fact is, side of federal keep telling us race Parliament. Some shock a referendum race who needs his. It's going to be washed out with so is it's about it's going to one this is in the kingdom about and it divide people just on racial background or pseudo that give race referendary advantage voice, that it's going to advise destroy which advise the so-called equality not we have race. Now this proper regarding the voice, which is an advisory group you've lost as the government, and there is a big about facts. It's about of people right through various ideological. You're thinking philosophical parties and time. The voice standing on the main thing we its reason with its young read oppose. It's somebody, and whether whether it's Jock told Pauline's mouth, Hanson, open water. Whether the fact is, somebody else keep telling us side of federal race out federal parliament. A referendum, some shot race. It's going to do needs he's all washed out with social. It's about one in the country. This is an addendum about divide people on racial pseudo background that give referendum race country voice advantage advise that it's going to destroy the so-called not equality race we have. Now this propaganda regarding the voice, which is you've lost group, and there is the government big is about backs of people. It's about for various rights, ideology, philosophical. You're thinking, Jesus, the party, the voice, time, standing on the main of the thing weird with its young reason, logical reason. It's somewhat opposed, and whether but the muck jock who told his mouth, Pauline, open water, Hanson. The fact is, whether keep telling us somebody else race side of federal. A referendum parliament at race. Some shock that's going to do who needs his washed out with some. It's going to like one. It's about in the country, and this is a referendum about this divide people pseudo on racial background. That referendum give race voice country. Advise vantage, which advise that it's going to destroy not the so-called race equality we have. Proper. Now this regarding the voice, you've lost, which is and there's group big as the government is backs about of people for various. It's about ideology, right, philosophical reasons. You're thinking the voice, the party. Time, pain, standing on the thing weird with its young reason, logical, it's somebody reason, and whether the oppose, whether it's jock, but the mouth told open water. Pauline, the fact is, Hanson, keep telling us whether race, somebody else side of federal, a reference at race parliament. It's going to do some shock. Who needs his washed out with some. It's going to one is like in the country. It's about an this is a referendum about pseudo divide people on racial background referendum that give voice race advisory which advantage that it's going to not destroy race the so-called equality property we have. Now this you've lost regarding the voice, and there which is a big group sizes the government backs is enough people about for various ideology. It's about philosophical reasons. The voice. You're thinking the party main time thing weird standing on the with its young reason. It's some logical, and whether the real whether it's opposed jocks, but the mouth open water told. The fact is, Pauline keep telling us Hanson race whether somebody else a reference side of federal race out. It's going to do parliament some social who needs his. It's going to washed out with some one in the case like and it's about this is a referendum about pseudo divide people on racial referendum background that voice give advise race which advantage not that it's going to destroy the so-called proper equalities we have. Yeah. Now this, Joe, you've learned them. And they're regarding the big, which is an necessary group backs as the government of people is for various about ideologies, philosophical. It's about reasons to write the voice. Now, you're thinking, Jane, the party thing we at time with its young standing on the of it's some reason, and whether the original, whether it's jock oppose his mouth, but the open water. The fact is, told, keep telling us Pauline, race, Hanson, whether a referendum else, but race side of federal, it's going to do our parliament, some shocks. It's going to need sees one washed out with some in the country, and it is like it's about this. This is a pseudo-referendum about divide people referendum on racial background voice that advise give which advise race country not advantage race that it's going to destroy proper the so-called equality we have. Joe, you've lost now this and then big regarding the voice, which is an backstory group of people as the government for various is ideology about philosophical reasons. It's about the voice. See, right. You're thinking thing we at a party with its young time, standing on the of it's somebody, and whether the reason, whether it's jock oppose mouth open water, but the fact is, keep telling us told race Pauline Hanson a referendum whether it's race somebody else it's going to decide a federal actual parliament. Some shots going to one who needs his in the country washed out with some and it is like this. It's about pseudo. This is a referendum about referendum divide people on racial voice background advise that which advise give women race not country race advantage that it's going to proper destroy the so-called equality you've lost we have and there now this big regarding the backs which is enough people group for various as the government's ideology is philosophical about reasons the voice. It's about see right thing weird. You're thinking with its young party time standing on the Brits somebody and whether it's reason jogical mouth oppose open water. The fact is, but the keep telling us race told Pauline a referendum Hanson but race whether it's going to do somebody else outside of federal outside parliament. It's going to some shock one in the country who needs his and it washed out with such this is like it's about pseudo. This is a referendum about reference divide people voice on racial advise background which advise that give not race country advantage proper that it's going to destroy the so-called you've lost equality and there we have in big now this syndrome backs regarding the voice of people which is enough for various groups ideologizes the government philosophical is reasons about the voice. It's about anti-right thing weird with its young you're thinking the party time it's somebody standing on the and whether it's jock's reason logical mouth will open water oppose. The fact is keep telling us but the race told a referendum Pauline at race Hanson. It's going to do a weather anybody else side of Ferris. It's going to Parliament. One some shots in the camp, and it needs his washed out with so this is they call Suda. It's about this is a referendum about voice. Divide people, advise on race, which advise backgrounds, that not give race entry proper advantage, that it's going to destroy. You've lost the so-called and their equality big we have. Now this backs of people regarding the voice through various, which is an ideological group, philosophical as the government is the voice about pain. It's about thing we are right. Well, it's young. You're thinking the party. It's some time, and whether they're standing on the whether it's a jock. His reason mouth logical open water. The fact is, oppose keep telling us race, but the a referendum told at race Pauline. It's going to do Hanson a weather somebody else side of Federal. It's going to one Parliament in the country. Some shock and a who needs his desk washed out with some Suda. They it's about referendum. This is a referendum about voice. Divide people, which advise on race background, not that race give race property advantage. That it's going to you've lost destroy, and they're the so-called big equality we have backs. Now this of people through various regarding the voice ideology, which is a philosophical reasons as the government the voice is about pain thing weird. It's about it's young right. You're thinking it's somebody partying and whether they're time, whether it's standing on the jock of his mouth reason open water. The fact is keep telling us oppose race, but the referendum at race told it's going to do Pauline Hanson a weather somebody else. It's going to side of Federal. One out in the Capitol Parliament, and it some shock. This who needs his washed out with some Suda was like it's about referendum. This is a voice referendum about advise, which advise divide people on race, not background race. That give proper race country advantage. You've lost that it's going to and they're destroy big the so-called equality backs we have of people. Now this through various ideology regarding the philosophical, which is an group the voice as the government is main about thing weird. Well, it's young. It's about right. It's somebody you're thinking, and whether they're partying, whether it's time, jock standing on the of mouth, open water. Reason. The fact is, keep telling us race oppose a referendum, but the race. It's going to be told on Pauline Hanson a weather it's going to anybody else. One side of Federal in the country and a Parliament. Some shock desk who needs his Suda washed out with such is like reference. It's about voice. This is advising about which advice divide people not on race background. That proper give race country. You've lost advantage, and that it's going to big destroy. the so-called facts equality of people we have through various. Now this ideology, philosophical regarding the reasons, which is the voicery group, as the government. Pain is a thing we're about with its young. It's about right. It's somebody, and whether you're thinking whether it's a party jock time, standing on the mouth of open water. The fact is, reason keep telling us race oppose a reference at race, but the it's going to do told shall Pauline's Hanson. It's going to whether one or somebody else in the side of federal and it's out federal parliament. There's some shock pseudo who needs his tea washed out with some reference. It's about voice. Advise this is a which advise them about not divide people race on race backgrounds proper that's give race you've lottery and their advantage in big that it's going to destroy backs the so-called people equality through various we have ideology. Now this philosophical reasons regarding the voice, which is an advisory group, pain as the government thing weird is with its young about. It's about it's somebody right, and whether you're thinking jock party time mouth standing on the open water. The fact is, keep telling us reason race a reference oppose at race. It's going to do, but the shall told Pauline. It's going to Hanson one a whether in the county else and a side of federal out desperate parliament. Some shock pseudo who needs his washed out with some reference. They voice. It's about advise which advise. This is a referendum about not race divide people on race proper backgrounds. That give you've lost race and their country in big advantage that it's going to destroy people the so-called through various equalities ideology we have philosophical. Now this isn't the voice regarding the voice, which is an advisory group thing we advise the government with its young is about. It's somebody. It's about and whether the original right, whether it's jock. You're thinking party mouth time open water standing on the fact is, keep telling us race reason a referendum race oppose. It's going to do, but the marshal told it's going to Pauline one Hanson in the country whether and everybody else side of federal out federal parliament or pseudo some shotty who needs his referendum washed out with some voice. They advise it's about which advice. This is a not referendum about race. Divide people proper on race backgrounds. Yeah, that you've lost. Give and their race in big country advantage facts that it's going to people destroy through various the so-called ideology equality philosophical we have reasons. Now this the voice regarding the voice pain, which is another thing we advisory group with its young as the government is about. It's somebody and whether the it's about whether it's rock jock. You're thinking mouth the party open water time. The fact is, standing on the keep telling us a race. Reason a referential at racial reason. It's going to oppose but the it's going to told one Pauline in the Hanson and whether anybody else decide of federal pseudo parliament with some shock referendum who needs his washed out with some voice advises which advise it's about not this is a referendum about proper divide people on racial background. You've lost that, and they give big race century backs advantage of people that it's going to through various destroys ideology, the so-called philosophical equalities we have the voice. Now this main regarding the thing we had, which is with its youngstery group, as the government, is it's somewhat about and whether it's about Jockey right mouth. You're thinking open water, the party. The fact is, time keep telling us standing on the race of a reference reason that racial. It's going to do real oppose. But the much going to one told in the Pauline and a Hanson whether somebody else side of federal pseudo world parliament some shock referendum who needs his voice washed out with some advise which advise they come. It's about not race. This is a referendum about property rights. Divide people on racial. You've lost background, and they're that big give race facts country of people advantage through various that it's going to ideology destroy philosophical the so-called reasons equality the voice we have. Now this main thing we had regarding the voice with its young, which is an advisory group, as the government. It's somebody is and whether the about whether it's job. It's about right mouth. Open water. You're thinking the fact is the party keep telling us time race standing on the of a referendum about race reason it's going to racial oppose. It's going to but the one in the told and a Pauline Hanson whether anybody else or pseudo side of federality was out parliament reference some shock voice who needs his advice washed out with some which advice is they cannot it's about race. This is a proper referendum about divide people. You've lost on race and their background in big that give backs race of people country through various advantages ideology that it's going to philosophical face of the planet, and the other plants and animals will say thank you destroys and the so-called the voice equality we have. Now this thing we had with its young regarding the voice, which is an advisory group. It symbolises the government and whether the is whether it's about jocks. It's about mouth right open water. The fact is you're thinking keep telling us the party race time standing on the bay referendum of race. It's going to this reason logical race oppose. It's going to one but the must in the country and it told Pauline Hanson whether pseudo anybody else side of federal out referendum parliament some shock voice advise who needs his which advice washed out with someone not is like race. It's about proper. This is a referendum about yes. You've lost divide people and they're on racial big backgrounds that backs give of people race through various country ideology advantage philosophical that it's going to face of the plants and animals and the other. Thank you, will say, reasons destroy the voice, the so-called equality pain we have, the thing we had. Now this, with its young regarding the voice, which is an somebody group, and whether the arises the government, whether it is not jock about his mouth, it's about open water. See, right. The fact is, keep telling us, you're thinking race, party, time, a referendum, standing on the butt, race. It's going to do this reason, she'll. It's going to oppose one.